Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Jewel Batchasing. I'm the director of the Basel Convention Regional Center based in the Caribbean, and it is really my pleasure to deliver this pre-recorded presentation for the purposes of this side event on connecting climate mitigation to depolluting oceans through concrete solutions in the Pacific Islands. I'll actually be sharing some of the experiences that the Caribbean Center has experienced in executing a large-scale project that coincidentally the Pacific Islands are also a part of. Before I go into that, I just want to share with you a bit about the BCRC Caribbean. As I said, based in the Caribbean in Trinidad and Tobago, and the mission and vision of the center is aligned with ensuring the environmentally sound management of chemicals and waste in the countries that we serve. We serve 15 countries in the Caribbean basin, and as part of our project development and ensuring our sustainability of the center, we embarked on a project called Jeff Islands. And Jeff Islands has a terribly long acronym. It's called Implementing Sustainable Low and Non-Chemical Development in Small Island States. And it has several objectives that I'll get into shortly. But it's interesting to note, especially for the purposes of this side event, that it does seek to avoid over 300,000 tons of marine litter, including primarily plastics. And those of you in the audience would, of course, know that the plastic generation in small island states is tremendous and ends up ultimately in our landfills where fires may occur. It also impacts our marine environment as well, which is very critical to our tourism sectors. So a bit about Jeff Islands itself, it's quite complex. It is a program, and you would see here that it actually covers four regions, four geographical regions across the globe. Of course, I'm going to talk to you about the Caribbean experience, but notably there is the Atlantic side, which was recently included, and there are three countries there. And you also have the Indian Ocean side. There are four countries there, and you would see that several countries are working in the Pacific Ocean region, and I'll get into more detail in this slide. So the countries that are involved, as you could see, span Cook Islands, Fiji, the Federated States of Micronesia, Kiribati, Marshall Islands, Nauru, Niue, Palau, Papua New Guinea, Samoa, Solomon Islands, Tonga, Tuvalu, and Vanuatu. And actually, this logo that I've put on the slide actually is a logo for the Pacific region. The Caribbean was given green. I wasn't too sure about the logic of pink, but it is what it is. And this is your logo branding that you have to become familiar with. Now, interestingly, these countries are very familiar to me because in a past career, I dealt with climate change, and I would have been sitting there in Dubai with you. And actually, Tonga used to sit right next to Trinidad and Tobago. And these countries also negotiate under the UCIS platform. So they're very known to me. So it's very unique to now be in chemicals and waste and interacting with these countries. So you do have the benefit of this project, and I know many of you in the audience may not even know that the project exists because you don't deal with chemicals and waste, because we have that siloed approach. And we really now need to embark on breaking that silo and breaking that sort of taboo on that I only work on chemicals and waste, or I only work on climate change, because there certainly is a nexus between them both. So I'll just get into a bit of what our program in the Caribbean is dealing with. And your program in the Pacific is actually similar, of course, very national specific, of course, taking into consideration those considerations at a national level. So the component one of the project is focused on preventing the future buildup of chemicals. And like the Pacific region, we have an issue of what enters our countries. Oftentimes, what is in the developed world is sent to us by default, and we don't have any regulations for it. So we really are going to look to strengthen the legislative agenda for chemicals and waste and what comes into our countries. Specifically, we are actually developing a regional standard for the Caribbean for two products, at least for Minamata and for the Stockholm Conventions. And we are also going to look at the customs, because they are the repository for anything that enters any country, whether in the Caribbean or the Pacific, and looking, of course, at sustainable procurement, because this is the only way we'll get it right. If we procure sustainably, we can then embark on a low chemical pathway. The second component, and this one again has great parity with the small island states in the Pacific, we want to ensure that there's disposal of existing chemical stock. So essentially what we are doing in this component is looking at collecting what is in this residual chemicals, both what we call highly hazardous pesticides, polychlorinated biphenyls, and any other chemicals that are listed, including minimata, mercury, and getting them disposed of in an environmentally sound manner out of our countries. And we also want to encourage the development of a UPOPs app. Unintentional persistent organic pollutants are the pollutants that are generally associated when there are spontaneous fires at low combustion rates, especially at landfills, which we all know. And we are actually developing an app to help countries to locate and identify when these instances are occurring. And there is a component looking at rural waste management. The third component is very interesting, where we break the barrier on new areas under chemicals and waste, looking at end-of-life vehicles, e-waste management, and plastics waste management specifically. And we are looking at the cruise ship sector and a very new area on PVC's management. As it relates to the e-waste management, we are going to tap a bit into an access to the Montreal Protocol, where we look a little bit maybe at the refrigeration and air conditioning units, which was currently included in the Partnership Against Computing Equipment under the Basel Convention. And finally, of course, like any good project, we have to have knowledge management. And this is where we have invested in the development of the Plastic Tide Turners Challenge. There's an app associated with that. And of course, having an information exchange. And when I go to the last slide, you'll see how that information exchange manifests itself through the jeffislands.org platform, where countries such as yourselves in the Pacific can learn lessons from the Caribbean, Atlantic, and Indian Ocean, as well as vice versa. We can also learn from you on your strengths as well, and it allows for good information sharing. I often couch it as not south-south, but east-west, given our locations geographically. But quickly to get into some of the challenges and what our lessons learned, and prepare yourselves, because it's not easy. It has been quite difficult to execute this project. And just so you know, the projects in the Caribbean are valued over 20 million US, and similarly in the Pacific, I believe it's in excess of 10 million US you all have been allocated. You need excellent relations with your implementing partners and the Global Environment Facility in order to ensure good success. So make sure that you have good ties with the UNEP in your case. The capacity has to be built at the execution agency. As the BCRC Caribbean, your equivalent that is executing for you is SPREP, and it is very important that they build the capacity. It is a lot of work, and you have to invest very strongly in your team and make sure your team is constantly motivated as well. The human resources in the country, like the Caribbean, it is similar, where generally we have 1 or 2 persons dedicated to waste and chemicals management, and we overburden them, we overwhelm them with our emails, constant nagging. So it's important to see if that could be bolstered. And one of the ways that we smartly did that was we hired national project assistants, which would help to offset the load in the country. It's very important to also have clear terms of references to insulate against reissuing. Many persons may not want to bid because the terms of reference is too long and long-winded. So it's really important to be very clear, concise with the terms of reference, and ensure that you get good reach. So we've also invested in a database to ensure that we could get reach globally from our GRULAC region, which is closer to us and even you. For instance, for another project we're doing under the Stockholm Convention, our consultant actually hails from Australia. So that's to tell you the reach that we have. Ease of review on documents and time frame is another bugbear that we've seen in executing such a large project, and it means that utilizing mechanisms such as OneDrive are very important to make sure that the ease of review it's simpler than downloading documents, then adding comments, then sending it back. So having it in our OneDrive has been useful. And of course, another challenge that we've learned is that of data availability. The paucity of data is real, and it could mean that you leave your consultants out in the field for a longer period of time, or you ensure that all of the stakeholders are on board and you get in all of the information. As I said, this is the last slide, which really shows you the links with the knowledge management, and you have the Jeff Islands website as well as the greenforum.org. You can sign up for the Green Forum, and you would get information as it relates to the execution of this program. And I really urge you to have a look at the jeffislands.org as well, where there's information sharing across the board. I really hope that this was useful, and I wish you good deliberations at COP-28. Happy to hear that the Loss and Damage Fund was approved. Of course, the challenge is now looking at the capitalization of said fund and not repeating the mistakes of the Green Climate Fund. And again, I want to thank the Secretariat for giving me the opportunity. And on behalf of the Center, we want to thank you very much, and I should say shukran.